Okay, well, good morning and welcome. This is our session number 40, believe it or not. It's the third session on step 5. We had a session on what the book says, and then we had a session on the exact nature of our wrongs. And today we're talking about sponsorship, and then next week we'll be going on to step 6. So we're going to begin the meeting as we do. Going to read these opening words, and then some of you are going to read some adaptations from the big book. So here we go. Welcome to this session of Wandering Through the Big Book. This is not a meeting of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. There is no group conscience, no seventh tradition, no requirement for membership. Everyone is welcome. Our primary purpose is taking an in-depth look at the book, Alcoholics Anonymous, in order to deepen and strengthen our own recovery, to try to help others do the same, and try to become trusted servants of our fellowship. We are seeking conscious contact by trusting God, cleaning house, and helping others. And we're trying to improve that conscious contact by practicing steps 10, 11, and 12 every day, and applying the spiritual principles we are learning to the details of our ordinary day-to-day lives. We will begin this gathering with a moment of silence to reflect on why we are here. And then we're going to do our opening readings. And Buck, if you would read number 1.
Number 1, I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through. And though perhaps you came to scoff, you will remain to pray. Page 0, right for page 1.
Thank you. And Candace, number 2. Where did she go? Oh, I guess she's gone. Let's see. Jason, do you mind taking number 2?
Not at all. I am Jason and I'm an alcoholic. No attitude of holier than thou, no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective, page 18. And be quick to see where religious people are right, page 87.
Thank you, Jason. And then Jennifer, number 4.
Hi. You want number 3?
I'm sorry, number 3. Thank you.
I'm Jennifer. I'm an alcoholic. If you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe you have but 2 alternatives. One is to go on to the bitter end, blotting out of your consciousness how miserable you really are, page 25. And the other, to ask our Creator each morning in meditation to show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love, page 83.
Thank you, Jennifer. And then Robin, number 4.
Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will for us into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. This is the proper use of the will, page 85.
And then we need a substitute. So Amy, would you be willing to read number 5?
I don't have it in my chat.
Okay, oh, that's it. Because how about John? Have you got it in the chat?
My name is John and I am an alcoholic. Number 5, just to the extent that I humbly rely on God and do as I think God would have me do, will I be enabled to experience spiritual serenity right in the midst of human calamity, page 68. Head in the clouds and feet firmly on the ground, page 130.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to mute everybody, and here goes the short lecture to be endured. Mute all. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. This is as I said earlier, our third session on sponsorship, and this is it's going to be based on the study guide, and as we go on into steps 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, 11 and 12, more and more of what we're going to do in these sessions is going to come from this study guide, and it's going to be a lot easier if you have them printed and so that you can look at them. If you haven't, it's no problem, but it's material that's not in the book. It's related to the book, but not in the book. And sometimes I've written it, sometimes it's coming from somewhere else, but it will become more and more important. And it amazes me that this is session number 40. I mean, it just amazes me, and that we're essentially in chapter, we're in the middle of the book, but it's been a long go getting here. And as we move on, there are going to be more, and when we get to 10, 11, and 12, there are going to be a lot of sessions on those steps, because they really are the heart of the deal. It's just, especially today, we're going to talk about St. Ignatius and these spiritual exercises. And I'm just becoming more and more convinced that if you really want the gifts of a spiritual life, which means the gifts of having a relationship with whatever it is you call it. I mean, I'm going to use the God word, but higher power, higher self, spiritual reality, spirit of the universe, whatever it is you want, people's participation in Alcoholics Anonymous takes a serious turn when prayer and meditation become a central part of one's life, and more time and energy is devoted to prayer and meditation. And our last session, you will remember, was on the exact nature of my wrongs. And, I think I'll be trying to answer that question the rest of my life, because I just find it a compelling question. What did I do wrong? How did I wind up in here? All that kind of stuff. And the answer at the moment, my answer is, well, the exact nature of my wrongs is I thought my life was about me. I'm the central character in my life, and I relate everything to me. And the more I am able to experience the freedom, the joy and meaning and purpose and all this stuff that comes from having a relationship with a power greater than my mind and my body, the more I can laugh about the exact nature of my wrongs. And it's really been a process of changing my identification from my body and my mind to identifying more and more, I'm going to say, my soul. The book doesn't use the word soul, but at least for me, because it's been a word that human beings have used for thousands of years, and whether you call it my spiritual reality, my spiritual essence, our book says deep down in every man, woman, and child is this fundamental idea of God. And I've complained before that idea is a pretty namby-pamby, weak word as far as I'm concerned. But if you change that to spiritual nature, and then I use soul as a word to describe my spiritual nature, when the identification changes from I am my mind and my body, and I've got to solve whatever dilemma my mind and body is presenting me with. To identification with the soul, a lot of things happen, at least for me. One is I have a sense of the temporariness, I don't know if that's the right word, of my body and my mind. I mean, I'm clearly aware that my body and my mind have a beginning, and I know they're going to have an ending. And I'm getting closer and closer. But my spirit, and it's not just that I read about it and want to believe it's true. It's that I can feel it, that my spirit has a much longer shelf life. And if I believe the readings that I've done, and this is everybody from Emmett Fox to this Californian PhD hypnotherapist, the Journey of Souls, or the Netflix documentary called Surviving Death. Emmett says, relax. Your whole human life, this time, is one day in the life of your soul. Now, 300 days times 70 years, I think it's 21,000 or 2,100. I don't know. Can't do the math, but it means I've been here for a long, long time. And one of the first feelings that I got positively out of this step deal, doing these steps, was the sense that just as I feel more and more guided in my life. Why should I presume that that's going to stop at my death? I mean, I always was terrified by the idea of dying. I'd go into a kind of panic. Oh my God, not now, not yet. And today it's like, why do I presume, or my old idea is that there's heaven or hell waiting for me when I die, and I'm going to one or the other based on others' judgment of my behavior or something. I don't know what. Where today I presume that if I'm feeling guided in life, why would I not assume I will be guided in death? And when you read these different accounts of what they call life between lives, what they call past lives, you can be taken through a past life regression. It's just remarkable stuff that can change your whole feel. I should use I statements, changes my whole feeling about the urgency of my particular life. I've always lived in a state of relative panic that my hair is on fire, and that's why I don't have any. My hair is on fire and the sky is falling and nobody else seems to be concerned, and I got to do everything. I got to put out the fire and stop the clouds from falling. And why aren't you as bothered as I am? This has always been very annoying for me. Why aren't you taking this as seriously as I am? And the great gift of feeling like I'm part of a larger movement, and that, as the book says, if I am willing to play the role I've been assigned, if I'm willing to ask my Creator to help me be the best version of me that I can be, if I can respond to life with patience and tolerance and kindness and love, if I can ask to be shown, because that's a key part of this deal. It doesn't say figure out how to be patient, tolerant, kind, and loving. It says ask to be shown. Now I lost my train of thought, but it just feels, then I can match, just like we read in those opening words, then I can match the calamity with serenity. So later on this morning, we're gonna dip into Saint Ignatius, and you know what he's gonna say eventually. These are my adaptation of his words. The primary purpose of my life is to love, honor, and serve my Creator. Love, honor is pay my respects, feel and show my gratitude through service. Love, honor, and serve my Creator, and thereby, he says, save my soul. I'm going to say thereby accomplish whatever it is, whatever learning my soul came here to learn and grow as a spiritual being having a human experience. I mean, it just helps me relax. It's like, you know, I don't have to figure it out. I just have to ask to be shown. And I have to try to learn from what's going on. I'm going to jump into him right now just because but then there's some other stuff I want to do here, but because well, never mind. What he says, I've done a write-up of this, but I did this a while ago, and I've recently been reading it more closely, and I've made copies of these, but I'm getting myself confused here. The other thing that really intrigues me, so this here is a little book from Hazelden that's about the relationship between a Jesuit priest named Father Ed Dowling and Bill Wilson. And this is a remarkable relationship, because Ed Dowling asked Bill Wilson to spiritually direct him, which is Jesuit speak for be my sponsor. And so here's a Jesuit priest coming to a drunk to be spiritually directed. He came to AA not as an alcoholic. He's not an alcoholic. He came because he wanted the spiritual experience that Bill Wilson had. And which brings me to another major point here. The big book doesn't tell you how to be a sponsor. The big book is written for you as an individual, giving you precise instructions or a recipe, whatever you want, to come to a spiritual experience. And the only time the book talks about a need for another person is step 5. All that other stuff you're doing on your own with the book. I mean, that's the state that AA was in. It gives you a couple of clues. We talked about them when we read through the material on step 5. But so and the interesting thing to me about St. Ignatius and these spiritual exercises is that it's written to the director, that what they call the director of the exercises, the giver, sometimes the giver of the exercises. It's not written to the receiver. The big book's written to essentially the receiver. so it's fascinating to me to read about what this guy said, and he's really talking about the conditions that you need to establish, the attitudinal conditions that you need to establish as the director, so that the receiver can come to a spiritual experience. And it's just wonderful stuff. Although, you know, what you have to remember is Ignatius was a military man. He's a Spaniard. He has a spiritual experience as he's healing from a military injury. He has this big conversion experience, and he winds up founding the Jesuits. And boy, you know, you talk about an organization devoted to education and service, and they're it. Although I want to say, you know, we're in a position to really carry forward with what they're doing. So I'm finding it enormously rewarding, and I better get on with it, or we won't even get there. So what I'd like to do this morning is using the study guide, and I say again, as we go forward, the printed version of the study guide is going to make your participation in this in this, whatever we call it, these sessions, a lot easier. So the first thing I'd like to look at is it's called Phases of Sponsorship, and it's step 5, page 4. It's number 2. When this PDF, the first page has a little table of contents, and the first thing we did was a discussion of Into Action, chapter 6, pages 72 to 75. And then the second item on page 4 is called Phases of Sponsorship. And again, this is not in the book. This is just an interpretation of what I think the book leads us to. And so these 5 phases are set out. 1, showing a person the ropes of AA. 2, getting the person to a 3rd step decision. 3, helping the person come to conscious contact. 4, helping the person do steps 10, 11, and 12 every day as a way of life. And finally, phase 5, helping that person work with others. So yeah, and you can do anything you want. This is just an interpretation of this whole deal, about which the book says very little. So showing the ropes, that's sometimes we call it temporary sponsor. You could do this with if you've got 2 weeks more than somebody else, you can start doing this with a newcomer. Just saying, you know, this can be overwhelming when you get in here, and I would love to talk about what the things that we do and why we do them that way, what this is all about. Even stuff like the format is technically called a group conscience. It's determined by a business meeting, which usually happens once a month. This idea of group conscience shows up in tradition number 2 as a result of prayerful consideration. The group has this as our format, and this is what takes our meeting through the business that we do in the meeting, and blah blah blah. And the 7th tradition, you know, the stuff about where you really could run through the traditions if you wanted, or the ones that seem to be most important at the time. And I get annoyed with, you know, people that don't want to pay any attention to the traditions, because they really are the most wonderful set of principles to guide any organization or a family or just a one-on-one relationship, anything. It's not just the meeting. Okay, so hold on here. Connie, I'm just going to mute you. There you are. Okay. Okay, so first phase is just showing somebody the ropes. Second phase, now you're getting more serious. And step one is really about information, what it means to say you're a real alcoholic, about the physical manifestation of the disease, the allergy, the phenomenon of craving, the fact that I can't drink safely, and getting the other person to decide for themselves, this is true for me as well. And then step two is a glimmer of the solution, which is a relationship with the spiritual aspect of one's being, or the spiritual principle underlying the entire universe, depending on how you want to look at it. I maintain personally that step two has two parts. It's one, acknowledging that there may be a power greater than my human power, my human mind, and my human power. All it is do you believe, or are you even willing to believe? You know, it's a huge hoop to, I mean, it's an easy hoop to move through. Let's see, I'm just seeing a chat. Well, I'll get it to you, Amy, because it's in the study guide, and somehow I got to convince you all to, when I send the PDF, to print the friggin' print. Well, it's, if you're on step 5, it's going to be the 4th page of step 5. Okay, so anyway, phase 1 was showing somebody the ropes. Phase 2 is trying to get somebody to a 3rd step decision. And I'm going to say something fairly challenging. Oh, I saw that, Buck. That's right. You could find it right there. If you can't get somebody through a 3rd step decision, the decision initially that, you know, this would take you back to levels of the 3rd step decision, because my experience is, when I made a 3rd step decision, I was not deciding to try to become a trusted servant of my spiritual creator. I just plain wasn't. I was deciding to proceed with steps 4 through 9 because I didn't want to drink again. And this 3rd step decision has become more meaningful and more important. And I think I'm making it every moment, every day. And I think when step 10 says, each day is a day when I must carry the vision of God's will into everything I do. And it says, the only question that should be in your mind all through the day is, how can I best serve thee? That's putting the 3rd step decision right in front of me on a moment-to-moment basis. Because I think St. Ignatius had it right, that the primary purpose of my life is to love, honor, and serve my creator. And I've got to decide that's what I want to make the primary purpose of my life. I'm sorry. If you can't get somebody to a 3rd step decision, it's up to you whether or not you can proceed. You know, for starters, you're not supposed to proceed unless the person comes to their own, they are able to concede to their innermost self, yep, I'm a real alcoholic. I got the allergy, I can't drink safely, I've got a mind that needs relief so bad that it denies the physical fact that I can't drink safely. And I have a spiritual malady, which means I don't have any relationship with frickin' God. And, you know, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I'll remind you that the original definition of agnostic was a statement of fact that it is impossible to prove or disprove the existence of God with the mind and the body. You know, we've taken it to mean doubt about God. But what it was saying is, no, you need a spiritual experience to understand that God is for real. You're not going to get to an intellectual conclusion that God is real and therefore experience serenity. It's really discounting the mental part, which is where we're all hung up. I mean, we're all living hugely mental lives driven by our minds. I'm getting way off. Okay, getting the person to the third step decision. It's talks about reading all this stuff, and the third step decision initially is the decision to treat the disease along the lines that this book suggests. So then once you've done that, the goal, because the goal, I think this is real important. The goal of 4 through 9 is conscious contact. That's the goal. It's not for somebody to feel bad. It's not for somebody to come to terms with their insane behavior. I mean, it is, but the real goal is conscious contact. And many people will, you've got the bedevilments on page 52 on one end, and you got the 9th step promises on the other end, 30 pages apart. You know, just as the bedevilments are indicators of untreated alcoholism, the promises are indicators of conscious contact. And then you read to step 10. I'm hot on step 10 because I was in a big book meeting yesterday, and step 10 was the topic. And, you know, it says we have just entered the world of the spirit. We've just experienced the truth that the book is not a lie, that these people are not, they're talking about their experience. The only question is, do I want it or not? Or do I want my own experience? And am I willing to do what they said they had to do to get it? All right, showing the person the ropes of AA. Number 1, showing the person the ropes of AA. 2, getting them to a third step decision. 3, getting them to conscious contact. And then once you got it, the understanding that this is real. Our way of life is 10, 11, and 12 every day. That's our way of life. 10 is about mindfulness. 10 is about conscious awareness of my attitude as I'm interacting with the world and knowing what to do when that attitude is not what I want. You know, people say all the time, nothing really happens in Alcoholics Anonymous until you want to stop drinking, right? Unless you're motivated to stop drinking, you're not going to be able to stay sober. Well, unless you're motivated to want to stop feeling resentment and fear and remorse, you know, you're not going to be motivated to do 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis. And 10 is saying when, not if, when you feel selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear, that you know what to do. Pray at once for removal. That's the first thing. Get into pray at once for removal. Share with somebody, step 5. So what pray at once for removal is 6 and 7. Share with somebody, step 5. Make amends if called for, which is 8 and 9. And then turn the mind to service. Turn the mind to the question, how can I best serve thee? In this interaction I'm having with this person, how can I best serve thee? What do you want me to do here? Please show me the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. I had a conversation yesterday with my wife and a good friend, and you know, I realized that I have relationships where I have no interest. I have a hard heart, no interest in showing them patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. And I don't understand it. I'm working on it, but anyway, okay, let's see. helping the person do steps 10, 11, 12 every day as a way of life. And that means establishing a morning drill. Of course, you can do this. You can do this back in one, showing person the ropes of AA. Establishing a morning drill, practicing prayer and meditation, understanding the idea of primary purpose, the 10-step protocol, what to do when negativity shows up, commitment to service. This is, I love our symbol, the triangle surrounded by the circle, the triangle, unity, the meetings of the fellowship, recovery, one-on-one work, one alcoholic with another, service, our commitment to try to contribute to life instead of just taking from it. And it's all in this circle of prayer and meditation, grounded in and surrounded by prayer and meditation. So helping somebody establish a spiritual way of life we're calling this phase number 4. And then finally, helping them work with others. Because most people that have engaged in sponsorship realize how much we gain from it. I absolutely, it's done more for me than anything else. Trying to bring another into relationship with higher power. But I'm also convinced the book doesn't set it up as 12-step work is fundamental, but there's no equal sign between 12-step work and sponsorship. That's why this is challenging to present, because we don't have the instructions as we normally do, and why I'm so excited by well, it's actually two books. The other one is this Cloud of Unknowing that we'll get to when we get to 11, that also has a companion thing called privy counseling, which sounds like counseling taking place in a toilet, but it doesn't. It means private counseling, and it's one with another. And I haven't made it through it, but I'm excited that when these people tell us how to do something, the most important thing that we can do, which is to bring another into relationship with higher power. I mean, that's the most important task for me personally inside my own life. But I'm telling you, the success or failure on AA as a whole is going to rely on sponsorship. I'm sure you've heard of Clancy, and Clancy gets mixed reviews from lots of different people, but he's one of our, I guess you'd say, AA saints. And he says, you can take every problem inside AA and reduce it down to lack of effective one-on-one sponsorship. That's quite a statement. Every problem inside AA means people acting out in meetings in unhelpful ways. Everything. Our financial struggles. I'm a treasurer of a group, and $2 bills are showing up, and I'm going to hold one up pretty soon, and we need more of these. It has been like pulling teeth to try to get cheap ass drunks to contribute more than $1 a meeting, or throw in whatever change they've got in their pocket. Here we got something that saves our lives. And we let the basket pass us by, or we buy our raffle tickets, and I'm good. Of course, we're hoping to get something out of the raffle ticket, but I'm way off. I'm sorry, but I think it's significant that somebody like Clancy would would say that you can take every problem and bring it down to, and I think that means when you see a newcomer, I hope you would feel the urgency of trying to, I do feel that my main job, especially with somebody that's new, is simply keeping them in the game. I'm a candy ass sponsor. I'm not a hard ass. And I think it's because I want to be liked, and I don't like the idea of rejection and all that stuff. But on the positive side, I just want to try to keep them in the game till the process can do what it's going to do. Well, I had heard, but we're going to have to do St. Ignatius next week, and there's a whole nother reading that here's a good idea. I'll resend the PDF on step 5, ask you to print it if you'd like to. The one reading we can do out of the book because it's in the book. It's a wonderful story about Dr. Bob taking a guy through this. This is way early AA. He takes him through the steps in an afternoon. An afternoon. Not talking about a year, 2 years, a step a year. Are you freaking kidding me? It's a wonderful story, and you also see the Oxford group shows up, and I don't know, but I'd like to read it as a group, and we do this reading where we read one sentence at a time. It'll be 5 people, and St. Ignatius, I'm going to give it'll give me time to do a better thing. So I just want to read something I copied up this morning. Oh yeah, okay. I'm just going to read this to you, and then gong, and we'll have some open discussion and get back to St. Ignatius next week. So this is in We Agnostics, and it's, believe it or not, it's like, it's going to start on page 50 if you want to read along, which is 2 pages before the bedevilments. And I just was struck by this. So this is what it says. On one proposition, however, these men and women are strikingly agreed. Every one of them has gained access to and believes in, and I would have reversed that, believes in and has gained access to, because I think it starts with the belief, I don't know, a power greater than themselves. This power has in each case accomplished the miraculous, the humanly impossible. Here are thousands of men and women, worldly indeed. These are not Jesuit priests in a monastery doing these exercises. These are worldly people living worldly lives. They flatly declare, and that's interesting that he'd throw in this word flatly. It means they're not doing it with impassioned. They're doing it matter-of-factly. Flatly declare that since they have come to believe in a power greater than their human selves, their minds and their bodies, believe in spiritual power, have taken a certain attitude toward that power. My sponsor drilled me on this. Every time I saw the word attitude, I was to think of how it works, HOW, and I was to remember honest, open, and willing, to pray to escape from the self-delusion of the human mind, to be open-minded about what could happen in my life, and to be willing to do stuff that my human mind does not want to do. I don't want to do self-examination, self-disclosure, praying for the removal of self. Seems ridiculous. I'm praying to be the hole in the donut, and worst of all, making amends, Being willing to do stuff being willing to be uncomfortable. How about that? Just willing to, we are seeking comfort. I'm telling you, for me, my body, all it wants is to survive. It thinks there's some value in that. And then St. Ignatius is going to come along and say, it doesn't matter whether you have a long life or a short life, a healthy life or an unhealthy life, a rich life or a poor life. It doesn't matter. I'm getting on a soapbox here, huh? Let's see. Take a certain attitude toward that power and to do certain simple things. Go to meetings, read the book, interact one-on-one with other alcoholics, ask for help, learn to pray and meditate. Since we've taken this different attitude and done certain simple things, there has been a revolutionary change in our way of living and thinking. Means my life ain't so much about me. They have found a new power. Oh, let's see. In the face of collapse and despair, in the face of the total failure of their human resources, they found that a new power, peace, happiness, sense of direction flowed into them. And this happened soon after they wholeheartedly met a few simple requirements. I don't even think it's got to be wholehearted. I think wholehearted really helps. But, well, never mind. Okay. Once confused and baffled by the seeming futility of existence, the meaningless. I'm not getting any return for my investment. It's all meaningless. I still feel I'm doing all this stuff and I still feel rotten. They show the underlying reasons why they were making heavy going of life. So our troubles, we think, are of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and we're extreme examples of self-will run riot, and we don't think so. Leaving aside the drink question, this is not about, it's not about sobriety. It's not about alcohol. It's about you and God, period. Leaving aside the drink question, they tell why living was so unsatisfactory. They show how the change came over them when many hundreds of people, you got to remember, there weren't even 100 when they wrote this, are able to say that the consciousness of the presence of God is today the most important fact of their life. They present a powerful reason why we should do what this book is trying to tell us to do. And I would say to you, that's your job number one in a meeting of a Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, is demonstrating that the presence of God is the most important fact of our life, so that we can give another person a reason to have faith. I was told that I promise I'm going to stop, 2 meetings going on at the same time in Alcoholics Anonymous. One, a meeting of people that are stuck in the problem, and a second meeting of people that are living in the solution. And they're going on at the same time in the same space. And I think our job is trying to demonstrate that we're living in the solution of having a relationship with whatever you call it. As usual, I'm got a big mouth and going on too long, and so we're going to wind this up. I'm going to gong this gong, and Buck's going to stop the recording, and then we're going to have some open discussion till we're done. Okay, I love you. I'm very grateful that you're here, even though I'm seeing mostly names and not faces here today. Thank you very much for coming, and see you next week. And I promise, St. Ignatius, and that story, and Dr. Bob's final talk, a lot of good stuff, I hope. Okay, thanks.